My name is Clara Tyler. I'm 28, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived by one rule when facing my extended family: stay quiet, stay small, and leave early. But rules only work until someone decides to break them for you. The last time my family got together, I told myself I'd keep my mouth shut. Smile, nod, eat the food, escape before anyone warmed up enough to start throwing casual insults wrapped in fake laughter. I practiced that mantra on the drive over, reciting it like a worn out prayer. Don't rise to it, Clara. Don't take the bait. But deep down, I already knew better. These people have always needed someone to kick. And for years, that someone has been me. They never understood me. They didn't understand logistics either, my actual field, so they twisted it into something small: package girl, delivery clerk, box runner. The kind of jokes meant to sting just enough that you smile back to survive. None of them knew the truth after a freakish stroke of luck, the kind you expect to see in a news headline, not in your own hands. I quietly bought out a regional supply chain company. Because I won the actual honest-to-goodness multi-million lottery. $10 million overnight. And I told absolutely no one. My parents passed away long before it happened. My sister didn't know. My cousins didn't know. Not even my childhood best friend. I didn't trust anyone with a secret that big. Especially not my extended family, the people who could sniff out opportunity like sharks scenting blood in the water. Growing up, I was always the broke one, the quiet one. Not because I was irresponsible, but because I saved. I invested. I drove a dented silver Corolla while my cousin Jason financed a new luxury car every 2 years just to swagger into Thanksgiving. My Aunt Charlene, my dad's younger sister, was the worst of them. A woman who had never held a real job but somehow floated through life with designer purses and lashes long enough to generate wind. She married rich twice, and she made sure we all knew she no longer mingled with small thinkers. She used to pat my head and say things like, "Don't worry, Clara Bear. Some people are meant for greatness, and some are just meant to be grateful." I learned early what category she meant for me. After Dad died, I moved cities, started over, cut down my family interactions to birthdays and polite messages. When my sister Leah called to invite me to a big family dinner, a celebration to introduce her new boyfriend, I said no 3 times. She begged, and despite everything, I've always had a soft spot for her, so I finally agreed. I showed up late on purpose, wore a simple black button-down and dark jeans. Nothing flashy, nothing that could be twisted into a conversation topic. The house was loud when I walked in. Forks clinking glasses, tapping kids, screeching at tablets. The smell of roasted chicken and garlic butter filled the air. Leah saw me first and hurried over, hugging me like she wasn't sure I would vanish if she held too tightly. "You actually came," she whispered, surprised. "Only for you," I smiled. Most people barely nodded. Jason was already a few beers in. Aunt Charlene sat at the head of the table like she owned the place. Fake pearls, bigger hair than the 80s ever intended, and that glittery smile that hid nothing but contempt. I filled my plate quietly and took a seat at the far end of the table. Leah's boyfriend Marcus was running late, so people were speculating. Probably another artsy type, someone joked. Leah's always had weird taste. Charlene smirked behind her wine glass. Men who talk about their feelings too much. Classic. Then came the moment I should have expected. Charlene turned to me, swirling her Chardonnay, the edges of her lips sharpening into that familiar predator's smile. "So, Clara," she purred, still shuffling boxes around, "or did you finally upgrade to fast food?" Laughter, soft embarrassed from some, genuine amusement from others. I kept chewing. "Oh, come on," she pressed. "You can tell us if you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Just don't ask me for a loan." More laughter. I wiped my mouth slowly, said nothing. She wasn't done. "You really remind me of your father," she added in a whisper, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Always scraping by, always pretending he didn't mind being broke." That one hit me in the chest. Not because it hurt, but because of the way she said broke, like it was a disease she'd cured herself of. I didn't flinch, didn't blink, just raised another bite of garlic bread. And that's when the front door opened. Leah straightened. "Marcus is here." Everyone turned. He walked in, tall, clean-cut, with the kind of easy confidence that made people like him instantly. But when his eyes landed on me, he stopped mid-stride. He blinked, did a double take, pointed right at me. "Wait, aren't you the woman who won that 10 million lottery a few years back?" Time froze. Forks hovered midair. Wine glasses paused. Even Jason's beer stopped tilting. I didn't move. "They used your photo in the article," Marcus continued. Remember the story about the young woman who disappeared after claiming her winnings. Silence. Then my voice calm, quiet. Yeah, that was me. The entire room shifted. Every face that had mocked me now glowed with sudden warmth. Every insult evaporated. Every sneer melted into awe. If you've ever seen wolves pause mid-howl to sniff the air because something new entered the territory, that's exactly what this felt like. Charlene's mouth fell open. Then she smiled bright, syrupy fake. Clara, sweetheart. Why didn't you say anything sooner? I'm so proud of you. I chewed my bread, said nothing. You said I'd always be broke, I finally murmured. Oh, that, she waved a hand. Inside joke, honey. We tease because we love. Jason clapped my back like we were lifelong best friends. 10 million, huh? Damn, girl. We should hang out. We could do big things together. And just like that, the wolves circled. Suddenly, everyone wanted to talk, to compliment me, to pull me into their conversations, to ask about my business plans. No one sneered at the Corolla. No one mocked logistics. No one dismissed me. It took only a single sentence from Marcus Hale to rewrite my entire identity in their eyes. But I wasn't smiling, because I could already feel it, the shift, the hunger, the calculations forming behind their wide, eager eyes. They didn't want me. They wanted my money. And I quietly chewed the last bite of garlic bread, already sensing what the next weeks would bring. And I was right. But I had no idea at all how far they would go. For the first 48 hours after that dinner, my phone didn't stop vibrating. Calls, texts, emails, LinkedIn requests, voicemails from relatives I hadn't seen since middle school. All of them suddenly remembered I existed because now I was valuable. Charlene left a voicemail dripping with faux affection. Clara, sweetheart, we're just so proud. Call me back, okay? We have so much to discuss. Family should stick together during big moments. Jason messaged me 3 times in a row. Hey, see, got a business idea we should talk about. You'll love it. Serious money opportunity. A cousin I barely knew sent a 47-second voice note pitching a family vacation resort project he wanted me to invest in. I ignored everything. But even silence can be loud, especially when people sense a door is closing. By Wednesday, a different type of message began trickling in 1 word, 2 words, ominous, in their simplicity. Call me, urgent, please reply. Then Thursday morning, I found something else. An envelope slid under my apartment door. No return address, no handwriting, just my name typed on the front. My stomach tightened. For a minute, I considered throwing it away, pretending I never saw it, pretending none of this was happening. But I opened it. Inside was a single printed photo, a grainy, zoomed-in shot of me walking out of my condo building last week, wearing gym clothes holding a coffee cup. The perspective was low and distant, like it was taken from a car window or across the street. Someone had been watching me. Underneath the photo was one typed sentence, $10 million doesn't buy loyalty. It paints a bigger target. Be careful who you trust. I felt my entire body go cold. This wasn't Charlene's usual manipulation. Wasn't Jason's frat boy stupidity. Someone else was involved. Someone who wanted me scared. And it worked. For the first time in my life, my home didn't feel like a home. Every noise in the hallway made me freeze. Every shadow outside the window made my skin prickle. For 2 nights, I slept with the lights on. And I told no one. Not even Leah. Not even Marcus, who had no idea what he'd triggered by opening his mouth at dinner. But the universe wasn't finished with me yet. Friday afternoon, while I tried to focus on spreadsheets for my company, my phone rang. The bank. Hello, Miss Tyler, the woman said, her tone unusually tight. We're calling to verify a wire transfer request. A what? To confirm, did you authorize a wire transfer of $250,000 from your account ending in 8114 to a company called Redline Investments? My heart dropped. All caps, bold, underlined, dropped. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. There was a pause. We suspected that. The request came through an older login. It triggered our fraud alert. We've held it for verification. My mouth went dry. An older login. A login I hadn't used in 2 years. A login I had only accessed once from someone else's device. Jason's device. 2 years ago, I stayed at his place for a weekend before one of Leah's events. I used his laptop to check some bank information. I assumed it was safe. I was wrong. The bank rep continued. We recommend changing all passwords immediately. There may have been unauthorized access. I hung up the phone and sat on the floor. Not because of the money, it wasn't even gone. Because of the betrayal. Jason hadn't just mocked me, hadn't just pitched schemes. He tried to take $250,000 from me. On top of someone stalking me with a camera. On top of my aunt rewriting decades of insults like they never happened. I felt dizzy, sick, like the room was tilting. For the next few days, I barely slept. I didn't go to the gym, didn't answer calls, didn't eat anything real, just nibbled pieces of leftover granola bars I found in my cupboards. Didn't respond to my management team's emails. I was withdrawing from my own life, from work, from everything. Are you okay? One of my department heads emailed after I missed a strategy call. I didn't even reply. Instead, I stayed home, curled up on the couch, staring at my phone while dozens of unread messages piled up. I didn't feel like a lottery winner, or a CEO, or a woman who built something from nothing. I felt like the same invisible, unwanted kid who sat at the corner of family dinners, hoping no one noticed her. Money didn't change anything. Not the way people treated me, not the way danger hovered around me, not the way loneliness dug into my ribs. And then, of all things, it was a photograph that pulled me out of the fog. Late one night, unable to sleep, I scrolled through my old picture folder. Most photos didn't matter. But one stopped me. A picture of me and Dad at a local park. I was 8, holding a crooked wooden birdhouse I built in school. He was kneeling beside me, wearing his old gray hoodie, tired, but smiling eyes full of pride. He never had money. He struggled more than anyone admitted, but he carried himself with dignity, with quiet strength, with an unshakable belief that kindness was a form of armor. He didn't need anyone's approval, and neither did I. The fog didn't lift instantly, it cracked, a thin line of light cutting through the darkness. I sat up, wiped my face, took a deep breath. I knew exactly what needed to happen next. No more fear, no more silence, no more letting them corner me. They wanted to stalk me, steal from me, manipulate me. Fine. Then they'd better be ready for the version of me they never saw coming. And I was done being the girl they pushed around. The morning after I stared at that old photo of Dad, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Not peace, not forgiveness. Resolve. I got out of bed, showered, combed my hair, cleaned my entire apartment from top to bottom, and then sat at the kitchen table with a notebook. Not to make goals, not to write affirmations. To write rules. My rules. The ones that would decide what happened next. Rule no. 1, no more silence. Rule no. 2, no more hiding. Rule no. 3, build something that lasts. Rule no. 4, they don't get away with it. I stared at the list for a long moment, then picked up my phone. First, call my lawyer. I told him everything. The anonymous envelope, the stalking photo, the attempted $250,000 transfer, the old laptop login, and my thickening suspicion that Jason was far from finished. He didn't ask accusing questions. He didn't doubt a word. He just said, "We're moving now." And he did. He froze every vulnerable account, filed preliminary fraud reports, connected me with a cybersecurity team to audit all devices, and most importantly, told me not to confront Jason directly. "We'll gather evidence first," he said. "Always gather evidence before striking." He was right, because this wasn't about anger anymore. This was strategy, war. Next, I called a meeting with my company's board. I told them I'd hit a rough patch, but I was back. I laid out a refreshed operation plan. I restructured 2 departments. I approved new initiatives and met with my management team one by one. And slowly, the version of me I thought I'd lost, the sharp, decisive, future-focused Clara, came back to life. I didn't buy a mansion, didn't buy a luxury car, didn't buy anything flashy. Instead, I bought a modest 2-story house with a backyard and a shed that reminded me of Dad's old workshop, a place where I could breathe. Then I founded the Tyler Family Support Initiative in Dad's name, a quiet foundation for working-class parents who needed emergency childcare transportation or meal assistance. If someone like my father had had access to something like this years ago, our lives might have been very different. Creating it didn't fix everything, but it grounded me. Still, something was wrong, something unfinished. And the answer came from an unexpected place. It was a Tuesday night when Leah called me, sobbing, terrified. "Clara, can you please come over? Please, it's bad. It's really bad." She lived 15 minutes away. I got there in 10. Her apartment was dim TV flickering silently in the corner. Marcus sat stiffly on the edge of the couch, bouncing one knee, looking like he wasn't sure whether to stay or stand guard. Leah opened the door with shaky hands. Her eyes were red, her breathing uneven. "What happened?" I asked. She didn't answer immediately. She just gestured for me to sit. Marcus poured me a glass of water like he was handling an injured animal. Finally, Leah took a deep breath and reached under the coffee table. She pulled out a thick manila envelope. "He asked me to give this to you," she whispered. "He said it was a peace offering." But Clara, I opened it. I had to. I slid out the papers. At first, they looked like financial forms. Then I saw my name at the top of one, a contract, a signature that was supposed to be mine. My stomach twisted. It was a forged power of attorney claiming I had granted Jason control over certain financial assets. It wasn't even a good forgery. Sloppy, arrogant, almost mocking. That's not all, Leah whispered. She dug deeper and pulled out printed spreadsheets, my banking activity, property records, ownership documents for my company. Stuff no one should have unless they hacked something. Marcus cleared his throat. He bragged about selling some of it. Said he knew a guy who buys celebrity asset leads. He said your info is basically a gold mine. My pulse roared in my ears. He's trafficking my private data, I asked quietly. Leah nodded, covering her face with her hands. Then she said the words that made the room tilt. I overheard him on a call yesterday. He said something about a final move, something big, something that would lock it in so you couldn't stop it. I froze. What does that mean? I don't know. But he said you were emotionally unstable, that you'd been withdrawing from work, that you were becoming reckless. Marcus leaned forward. He's trying to build a case, Clara, something to justify seizing control of your assets. If he files a guardianship or competency claim, they can freeze everything while it's investigated. My chest tightened. That's insane. It doesn't have to be airtight, Marcus said grimly. Just messy enough for a judge to pause your access. Leah wiped her nose. And he said Aunt Charlene is helping. She's telling people you're stressed, overwhelmed, making bad decisions. There it was. The final move. The last trap. They were preparing to legally corner me by painting me as unstable. A calmer version of me would have panicked. The Clara from 2 weeks ago would have collapsed. But the woman sitting in Leah's living room felt nothing but a cold, precise clarity. I smiled. Leah blinked. Why are you smiling? Because I said softly they just overplayed their hand. Jason's forgery, his data theft, his threats, Charlene's manipulation, the stalking photo, the wire transfer attempt. It was all enough. More than enough. And now I whispered, standing up, I have everything I need. Leah grabbed my arm. Clara, wait. What are you going to do? Exactly what they're trying to do to me. I looked her in the eyes. But better. What does that mean? Leah whispered. It means I said I'm done reacting. I walked to the door, turned back once, met their terrified expressions. I'm going to end this. And I meant it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, because for the first time in weeks I wasn't afraid. I was calculating, planning, sharpening. I spent hours sitting at my kitchen counter with every document Leah had given me, spread across the marble in careful rows, like a surgeon laying out instruments before an operation. Jason didn't just want money. He wanted control. He wanted my silence, my bank accounts, my identity, and he thought he could corner me, legally paint me unstable, overwhelmed, unfit to manage my own life. He thought he'd already won. He truly didn't know me at all. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. We escalate, I said. He didn't hesitate. Understood. Send everything. I scanned every page, every forged signature, every stolen data file. My lawyer's responses became shorter and more urgent. This is fraud. This is actionable. This is criminal. Then came the message that shifted the tone entirely. We need a private investigator. He wasn't talking about some discount part-time camera guy. He meant someone who could dissect lies like a surgeon, track movements, identify patterns, and gather evidence that holds up in court. He had a name ready, Dorian Gray. Yes, like the book. No, not a joke. Dorian met me in his quiet, dimly lit office later that day. He looked like someone who'd seen far too much and spoken far too little. Silver hair cropped neatly, eyes that missed nothing. A presence that made you feel like every word you said was being weighed on a scale. I told him everything. The stalking photo, Jason's hacked login, the forged power of attorney, the threats, Charlene's manipulation, and now this new plan to corner me legally. He leaned back, studying me with a clinical calm. I'll need a few days, he said. He only needed 6. By the end of the week, he had a full report, neatly organized and terrifying. Timeline of Jason's actions. Emails he had sent to financial consultants. The names of people he contacted to request information about me. The evidence of him attempting to sell my financial data. Recordings, screenshots, metadata, IP logs, statements from 2 people indicating Jason claimed I was mentally unstable. And then the nail in the coffin, a voice recording of Jason boasting to a friend. She'll crack soon. She's already slipping. Once she breaks down a bit more, we'll file. Charlene's got the groundwork laid. Judge won't question it. She's overwhelmed. I'm basically doing her a favor. I listened to that recording 3 times. Not because I needed to hear the words, but because I couldn't believe the level of arrogance. It wasn't just betrayal, it was entitlement. The kind that rots a person from the inside. But the investigation wasn't the only preparation I made. I needed to protect my reputation publicly. Because if they tried to argue I was unstable, I needed proof I wasn't. So I did the last thing anyone expected. I granted 2 requests for interviews. One with a respected business podcast, one with a local newspaper. Both interviews focused on sudden wealth, the emotional transition, the importance of community, and the quiet foundation I'd built to honor my father. I spoke calmly, thoughtfully, grounded, measured, steady. I didn't mention Jason, didn't mention Charlene, didn't mention the threats. I didn't need to. All I needed was a digital trail showing that Clara Tyler was stable, responsible, ethical, and deeply connected to her work. I needed to look like the opposite of the person Jason wanted to paint me as. And it worked. My public image became even stronger. My network expanded. My interviews were shared. The foundation gained support. I could practically feel the legal trap Jason and Charlene were setting, slowly turning back toward them. And then the most important step. I baited them. I sent Charlene a short, disarmingly polite email. "Hi, Aunt Charlene. I've been thinking a lot about your message at the dinner. Maybe you're right. We should start talking about family partnerships. I'm open to hearing ideas. Would you be willing to meet next week? Warmly, Clara." Her reply came in 3 minutes. "Absolutely, sweetheart. I always knew you'd make the right choice. Jason has some incredible plans. We'd be happy to meet on Thursday. Let's sit down like a family." She added a heart emoji. The irony almost killed me. I texted Leah and Marcus immediately. "We're hosting the meeting at your apartment," I told them. Leah texted back 3 dots, then, "Okay, I'm scared." "I know," I replied, "but trust me." Then I called Marcus. "Do you still have that audio recorder you use for band practice?" I asked. "Yes, why?" "I need it hidden in your kitchen." He hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Then I called Dorian. "Can you be in the next room?" I asked. "I'll already be there," he replied. The following Thursday, I arrived at Leah's apartment early. Marcus showed me the tiny microphone clipped under my blouse, nearly invisible. Leah wrung her hands. "She'll lie," she whispered. "She always lies." "Not this time," I said calmly. "Why not?" "Because today she wants to win." At 6:02 p.m. there was a knock. Charlene and Jason walked in like they were arriving at a charity gala they were headlining. Jason slapped my shoulder. Charlene kissed my cheek. "Sweetheart, you look amazing," she purred. "This clarity really suits you." We all sat. Marcus brought out coffee. And then I let them talk. Jason launched into a pitch about managing my brand, how he had connections with private equity groups, financial influencers, wealth managers. Charlene chimed in about legacy-building partnerships protecting the family name. They never mentioned the forged documents, but Jason slipped. "We've already been talking with a few people," he said casually. "Just to prepare, so when the time comes, it's seamless." I lifted my mug, smiled. "What time?" He blinked, stumbled. When you hand off some of the load." Charlene jumped in, smiling wider. "We want to help you focus on the big picture, sweetheart. No more stress. No more bad decisions." Marcus, recording everything from the kitchen, almost dropped a spoon. I kept my smile. "Bad decisions." Charlene tilted her head sympathetically. The kind you make when you're under too much pressure, when you clearly need help." There it was. The legal setup. The narrative. Their entire plan laid out with their own mouths. And I didn't stop them. I didn't argue. Didn't question, didn't accuse. I let them keep talking. Let them dig their own graves for 47 minutes. And when they left hugging me like they'd just won the lottery themselves, I let them go with the biggest grin on their faces. Because they thought they'd pulled me in. They thought they had me trapped. But they didn't know. The trap wasn't for me. It was for them. And they had walked into it with both feet. 12 days. I waited exactly 12 days. Not because I was hesitating, not because I had doubts. I waited because revenge, real revenge, isn't about the strike. It's about the timing. Charlene and Jason needed time to feel safe, to breathe easy, to celebrate their imaginary victory, to gossip to cousins, brag to friends, and plan their financial takeover like 2 villains with half a brain cell between them. I wanted them comfortable, because comfortable people make the biggest mistakes. On the 13th day at 10:17 a.m., a process server walked up Charlene's pristine front porch with a sleek black envelope and rang the doorbell. Inside that envelope was the first crack of thunder. Subject notice of legal action charges: attempted identity, theft, financial fraud, forgery, harassment, stalking. A full case number, a formal letterhead, a warning to retain legal counsel immediately. From what Dorian later told me, Charlene's face went ghost white. She staggered into her foyer like someone had pulled the floor out from under her. An hour later, Jason received the same envelope at his apartment. He punched a hole in his wall. Good. Let them feel it. Let them choke on it. Because what they didn't know yet was that I hadn't just built a civil case. I'd built a fortress. A legal one, a digital one, a psychological one. Before sending those notices, I'd already filed everything criminal and civil through my lawyer, Michael Easton, who had the personality of a polite hurricane. He built a case so airtight it could suffocate. We had the forged power of attorney, the attempted $250,000 wire, IP logs from Jason's city, the stalking photo, stolen financial documents, voice recordings, messages showing manipulation, Charlene's family retreat proposal using my name illegally, statements from people confirming Jason's smear campaign. Every thread, every scheme, every lie, they were all tied neatly together. But that wasn't enough. I didn't just want justice. I wanted exposure. I wanted the truth to shine so brightly that they would never be able to crawl back into the shadows they came from. So I made sure the story reached the right people. One of the podcast hosts I'd spoken to earlier in the month reached out asking for a follow-up. I agreed, but on one condition: I want to talk about financial abuse in families. He lit up. We filmed a 45-minute special in a warm studio with soft lighting, me sitting across from him with a calm, steady voice. I shared just enough information to paint the picture without naming names. I talked about sudden wealth exploitation, stalking, identity theft, manipulation, and how too many people are betrayed by the ones they trust most. I ended with a line that wasn't planned. Money doesn't change who you are. It changes how others see you. And sometimes it reveals who they've been all along. When the episode dropped, it hit 2 million views in less than 2 days. Then the financial crime blogs picked it up. Then a consumer protection site did a write-up. Then sleuths online dug into public court filings. And suddenly, Charlene and Jason weren't just whispered about. They were infamous. The phone call came a week later. I was painting a wall in the garage of my new house, a peaceful weekend project, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something inside me said answer. I swiped. Hello. Silence. Then a shaky inhale. Clara, it's Charlene. I froze, roller in hand, paint dripping onto the tarp below. Her voice didn't sound like her usual polished, condescending self. She sounded small, unsteady, as if the bottom had finally fallen out from under her. Clara, please, she whispered. Just hear me out. I didn't reply. She continued. I know I've made mistakes. Jason, too. We both got caught up in things that spiraled. We thought we were helping. By forging my signature, by stealing my private documents, by plotting to take my assets. I stayed silent, but she kept talking, words tumbling out like broken glass. You have to understand, she said. Watching someone like you, someone who started with nothing, win everything. It's hard. We've been trying for years. And we watched your father struggle. We just didn't want to fall behind. There it was, the truth she'd tried to hide for decades. She was never disgusted with my father for being poor. She was afraid she would end up the same. I could almost hear her carefully curated image crumbling. Her voice softened. Clara, please, I'm begging you. Let's work this out. We're family. Don't do this in court. I finally spoke. It's not going to court. She exhaled sharply. Thank God. I already settled it. Silence. It's over, I continued calmly. Criminal charges were dropped. I told the DA it wasn't worth the stress. Oh my God, she breathed, sobbing now. Thank you. But I added I filed something else instead. Her breathing hitched. What else? A permanent restraining order. Against both you and Jason. Approved this morning. She gasped. You can't come within 500 feet of me, my home, or anything I own. Stunned silence. Then, we were your family, she choked out. I was your aunt. You're really going to ruin us. No, I said quietly. You did that yourselves. And I hung up. Blocked her number, wiped my hands on a rag, and went back to painting my garage wall. Jason, of course, fought harder. He hired a lawyer, tried to claim he was manipulated, said he was just trying to help me manage wealth responsibly. It didn't matter. The recordings destroyed him. The forged signature sealed it. The financial data theft buried him. He was fined $125,000 in damages, ordered to attend a financial ethics program, issued the same permanent restraining order, and the financial crimes report, that cost him everything. He lost his real estate license, lost his clients, lost the BMW he'd bragged about for years, lost his apartment. Last I heard, he was sleeping on a friend's couch, ranting online about how money corrupts families. No one responded. Charlene disappeared almost completely. Deleted her Facebook, quit her wine club, stopped showing up to community events. Even Grandma stopped calling her. All that remained of her carefully curated reputation was a whisper of shame. Leah stayed. She helped. She apologized truly. She told me she wished she'd defended me years ago. I didn't tell her this out loud, but I forgave her long before she asked. Because she chose the truth when it mattered. Today my life is finally quiet. My foundation is expanding into 3 new cities. My company is thriving again. My mornings are peaceful coffee in a sunlit office overlooking a small lake where ducks drift lazily across the water. And when I think of my father, I don't think about what Charlene said. I think of the crooked birdhouse he helped me build. Crooked, clumsy, imperfect, but ours. And I realized something. They tried to steal everything from me. But I didn't lose a thing. Because in the end, they were never worth keeping. When everything finally settled, the court filings, the restraining orders, the fallout, the interviews, I expected relief to hit me like a wave. It didn't. Relief doesn't arrive loudly or triumphantly. It creeps in quietly, the way dawn does, soft at first, then warm, then suddenly bright enough that you realize the night is truly over. Weeks passed, then a month, then another. Life didn't snap back into place. It rebuilt itself slowly, piece by piece, with gentler edges and stronger foundations. My mornings became something sacred. I'd wake early, make coffee in my new kitchen, and open the back doors to let in the chilly morning air. A small lake shimmered behind the house, calm glass, like reflecting the pale sun like it was holding a secret. Dad would have loved it. Not the house, not the lake, but the quiet, the peace. He used to say that peace was luxury money couldn't buy, only the right choices could. I understood that now more than ever. Work stabilized too. My company thrived again. My board stopped hovering. Contracts moved forward. And the foundation, the part of my life that felt the closest to Dad, expanded faster than I expected. We opened 2 new offices, hired a team of social workers, counselors, logistics coordinators. Watching it grow felt like watching something in me finally heal. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. Leah visited often. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes she brought nothing at all, just herself. Barefoot on my couch, curled under a blanket, watching some crime documentary she insisted was research. Marcus usually came with her, carrying bags of groceries he pretended weren't groceries, just so I couldn't offer to pay him back. "I'm proud of you," Leah told me one night. "Not because you won, because you didn't lose yourself." I didn't tell her how close I'd been to losing exactly that. How the worst part of everything wasn't the money or the schemes or the threats. It was the realization that love could be so conditional for some people. But she didn't need to hear that. She'd lived in the crossfire too. I simply squeezed her hand. Somewhere around the 3rd month, the noise disappeared completely. Charlene stayed quiet. Jason vanished offline. No more messages, no more whispers, no more manipulation existing in the corners of my life. My story was finally mine again. The nights came easier, the mornings softer. The silence no longer frightening, but comforting earned. There were moments I'd stand in my backyard listening to birdsong, smelling fresh, damp grass, and I'd think, this is what Dad meant. This is what peace feels like. It wasn't victory, it was reclamation. Of my voice, my boundaries, my life. But peace, as I learned, has a strange habit of bringing clarity with it. Because just when everything felt settled, just when I believed the chapter had closed completely, something unexpected arrived. It was a Tuesday morning. Sunlight spilling across the counter, coffee steaming in my favorite ceramic mug, the world unusually quiet. That's when I heard the soft thud at my front porch. A package, a delivery. I opened the door. Nothing but a single envelope, cream-colored, unmarked, sitting neatly on the doormat. My stomach flickered, not with fear this time, but with something more cautious, more aware. I picked it up. It was light, paper only. Inside, just one item. A photograph. Not threatening, not grainy, not taken from afar. It was a photo of Charlene and Jason at a cafe, seated at a corner table, leaning in close, talking intensely. Not recent, old, maybe from before everything exploded. But what chilled me wasn't the photo itself. It was what was handwritten on the back. Just 4 words. You don't know everything. No signature, no explanation. A single implication. Someone else had been watching. Someone else had been gathering pieces. Someone else had witnessed things I hadn't seen. Someone else was involved. I stared at the writing for a long time, heart steady, mind sharp. This wasn't a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a message. A reminder. A promise. That the story wasn't as simple as I believed. That someone somewhere had more to say. Maybe someday I'd learn who. Maybe their part in this story would reveal itself, but not today. Today I had peace, hard-earned, long-awaited, deeply mine. I placed the envelope in a drawer, unshredded, unburned, unforgotten. Because some closures require leaving one small door unlocked. Not open, just unlocked, for whatever comes next, for whomever steps through. But as for me, for now, I breathe, I build, I live. And I do it alone not because I have to, but because I finally can.